Okay. Hi. All right. So, well, I missed you guys. We had a crazy open studio the last couple weekends, so I'm sure you've probably followed Leah or me on social media to kind of see how it went. It was fun. We're exhausted. Can you hear me, Julia?
What am I doing?
I see you.
I don't know how to do this. What have I done to it?
That's okay. So I decided to do something fairly, I will say simple today, but this really fun tree, and it's kind of fall.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
How do I move it down?
You can hear me, Natalia and Jackie, okay, right? Okay. Okay. So one thing I found out in the show that I need to pay attention, and this is for me, I'm going to be using this, but I thought I would bring it up, is matting and sizes. I need to kind of pay attention a little bit more, making sure that I don't just snip away at random sizes. Makes it a little harder. Do you need help, Julia?
Yeah.
So I used this mat so you can see, and I kind of just drew this little opening here. That's where I got the box. And then I wanted to kind of show you what I'm looking at here in terms of what I want to do with this picture. So the tree is the star of the show. And so by all means, you can also draw on the, I encourage this, draw on here and just kind of make sure you have your lines set if you need to, but I'm kind of cropping off this section. And then when that happens, you can just you can fold it if that bothers you too much, to where, you don't want it showing up, and it gives you a little bit better of a framed, or I could clip it. And normally I do this before class, but I kind of wanted to remind you that it's kind of helpful to do this. It also helps at the end with the mat to kind of see what you need to do in terms of finishing your painting. Because my studio is a little bit smaller, if we were in person, we'd be standing up a lot more and backing up and looking at things. But in this case, not so much, and that's okay. But it is important to pause and take time and look at where you're at to make sure it's proportionally, compositionally. So anyhow, all right, so today we're going to start off with orange, red orange. It's kind of like actually more of a peachy orange for the underpainting. I chose this because there's a lot of green in this picture. And I know that in the past I've talked about with complementary colors and how it makes it works so much better. It's richer and it kind of tones it down, and then it vibrates a little bit in areas. So today we're going to use our underpainting. So I'm going to send you the 4 colors here on our thread. And
so Marie, sorry, I managed to do something really stupid with the screen while I was trying to get us set up.
Yeah.
And I looked at the beginning. So, and I've come back and it looks like the picture is smaller. So you're cropping it. Is that
I'm
right?
cropping, yes. So
okay.
I kind of went through to talk about like being a little bit more cognizant of the composition and the sizing. I realized when I was going through and matting my work for the show, I was just clipping away, and it's okay. We're in class and we're practicing, but if it's something down the road you really do want to make a finished painting, I'm just kind of showing you what the process is, and I have a mat that I use. And so if I were to go and want to mat this at the end, I'm using the size of mat that I would use at the end. And so I actually just created a bounding box
Yeah.
Okay. And then I went over here and I'm looking. So this is my size, and I'm looking to see how I wanted to position this picture.
Yeah.
Because we know that this is the focus. This is what we're looking at. And so I want this primarily not like center, but this is my focus, and these are just the supporting actors in our little show. So I'm not too worried about this area. So that's just something I do on my own prior to class, but I thought I would throw that in and just give you a little idea of, I need to pay attention a little bit more. So if anything I realize, I hope to share with you that it does matter to some extent. But again, we're in class, we're practicing, playing around with color and learning. So for me though, a lot of these paintings I used, I did sell in the show. And so for me, I do want to be pay attention a little bit more. So I'm going to send over the 4 sticks I chose for the underpainting.
I haven't underpainted before, so you may have to go a bit slow for me.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, Jackie. I figured you had. So there's a few ways with underpainting. I'm going to do what's called a wet underpainting. So I'm using 70% alcohol. You can get it in a hardware store or any grocery store. I tend to use this because it dries fairly quickly. I'm using the UArt sanded paper because it can take this. You can also use Gamsol, which is like a turpentine, or you can use water. Gamsol will dry fairly quick like the alcohol. I just prefer the alcohol. So I'm going to do the underpainting, which is usually one color within 4 values of the color. So I chose, I sent over a picture. So I have 4 sticks from light, medium to dark, usually 2 mediums and a dark. This is one process. There's a lot of green, like I talked about, so this is why I'm going with the red-orange. The lightest is going to be my sky, and then I'm going to work the distance with the lighter value up to the tree and then down in the grass area. So I'll start off with this, and that's how I'm going to sketch. So I'm going to use one of these sticks for sketching. I'll probably use like this light orange for sketching. And these are all hard pastels, Jackie. So what's nice about these is it doesn't take up the tooth of our paper as much as like a soft pastel. So you can use a vine charcoal if you'd like to sketch. Oh, and what paper are you using today?
I've got the 400.
Okay. Okay, so with the vine charcoal, it will be dark, and so it's okay, but I prefer you to use a lighter color because we're going to be doing the wash. Do you have any alcohol or Gamsol?
I have alcohol. I don't have hard pastels, but I could do it with a soft pastel.
That's fine. Yeah. I would prefer you to use these just because the vine would be really, really dark, and we don't necessarily want that mixing. And I'll explain further down the road in terms of like processes and other paintings why. But for this, we're gonna just take our medium value and get our tree kind of sketched in first, and our lines, you know, our hillside, and just kind of get our bearings to where lines are, and then we'll come back in with those different valued pastels. So no details. We're just looking at shapes. So we're looking at the shape of the tree, right? We're looking at where these lines are. They're not horizontal, they're at an angle. Okay, so we're paying attention to our lines. And you know, where the horizon's kind of running into the tree. So we're just paying attention to these intersecting lines. Very, very simple. We're not even going to worry about the clouds. Don't worry about those. So I'm going to come in just very lightly with my tree. And notice I'm not drawing a circle, okay? The idea of our tree is to be interesting and not just a big lollipop. So we're just gonna fill it in here, just basic, and I'm very light, so we're gonna do a wash. And this is just getting it in. Okay, so we've got our horizon here coming right into the tree trunk. And we've got another line coming down, which is important. And I'm just paying attention to that. I'm kind of at an angle, so I apologize if I hit this camera and it moves. I'm going to use the edge of my pastel, my hard pastel. And got the trunk. And it's just kind of coming over like this. And I'm just getting it set. And I love this gesture. This is a very important piece of the tree. This piece and this piece, because it's giving you, it's pointing you up the hillside, and it's directing you here. And then we've got this nice limb coming over here. So compositionally, we've got the shadows coming up, leading our eye here, and then coming back down and then dancing along the trees. So this is set up really nicely. One of the reasons why I chose it. It's pleasing to the eye. So I'm just using my pastel to kind of just indicate where some of these branches are. And just come out like that. Okay, it doesn't really look like a whole lot, but I'm going to switch to my lighter pastel and just, this is just almost the same color as my paper, and that's okay. It's a very light orange. And I'll just add a little bit down here. Just putting something down. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my medium peachy orange. And I'm looking at my darks. I'm going to come up my tree trunk. Upright type subjects like mountains and trees usually are the darkest of the darks. And so this is why I'm just putting it in. I'll fill in another dark area here, that shadow. And I might even bring that and drag it right down like this. It's going to be nice underneath our greens. Got a little bit of darkness here. If we were to switch this to a black and white and switch this to a black and white, we hope that it somewhat lines up with the values, the lights and the darks. That's what we're going for. I've got even a darker dark, it appears. It might even be just a shade darker. I'm just gonna go even darker than that. Let's see what I have here. Nice red. I'm just gonna put it right in here. I'm not going all the way up into this tree, every branch. And I'm gonna tell you when we come back, we will reestablish these branches. But again, all we're doing is just looking at our value and making sure we're getting our shapes in at this point. I'm not too worried about the detailed part of it. So squint your eyes if you need to. Squinting also takes out the detail and helps separate. So I see this line kind of needs to come up a little bit and come down. We don't want to lose that. Okay. come down a little bit. Okay. And that's really it. It's one of the nice things about the underpainting is you can get it all set like this, and then we're going to come in with our wash, and it's going to dry very simple. And then, like we do in our other paintings that I've talked about, is we'll kind of work in along the edges of our tree. And this is what I was talking about in the message I sent out last night, the sky holes, and how do we deal with all these leaves that we really want to just paint every leaf. That's a normal thing. But I will show you at the end how we can make this tree readable, add just a little bit of leaf marks, because your eye is going to see it and then read it as a whole. And I'll show you at the end how to do this very, very easily. I'm going to take a picture of where I'm at. And I'm going to get my container ready with my alcohol here. I only pour about, I don't know, maybe an inch into my container, Jackie, not a whole lot. I've got all sorts of brushes to use. A stiffer brush probably will be better for this than a fan brush. I like to kind of get and scrub in there, especially with that texture of that tree. It helps create that texture. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I just had the brush. Oh, here it is. So one of the things I do remind you about, okay, good. That looks great. Very nice. This is going to be fun. I love the beginning stages because people just think, what are you doing? And then at the end, it's like, whoa.
It is so much fun, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect it to look like that. That's how it started. But that's the, yep. Good, Jackie. That's great.
It was really good.
Very
I love
good.
the blocks as well, Jackie, that you did. I think that they are great.
Oh
my
you.
Gosh. And it's going to look so cool with our wash. This is where you can have fun. And there's such a part of it where anything happens, and there's an organic part of it that I like, and that's the drips, the scrubbing. And so keep in mind, when we're using a wet wash, I want you to paint what you're looking at. So if we're painting a tree, we want to paint it like a tree. If we're painting a sky, we want to paint. This is actually taking our pastel, and start with your lights first. We want to keep our container as clean as possible. And like I said, you might not be able to see this, but I'm painting in a horizontal manner with my sky. I'm not painting up and down. It's important to paint what subject you're using. So my sky, horizontal. Water, horizontal. My tree, we're going to scrub. And we're going to use that. We're liquefying this pastel. And let's get it to where it looks like a tree. And I'm dabbing it, and it's okay if it goes off the paper. And it's dripping, but it's fun. And I'm just scrubbing. I'm pressing kind of hard. You probably can hear it. I'm just rubbing and it into the the pastel paper. Bringing up some of that color. And I'll come over here because this is a little bit lighter. Again, horizontal. Horizontal. It's okay if we lose some of our lines. Now I'm going to paint out of direction, but then here, I'm going to pull up some of this. Just, we're kind of closer. It's going to be a nice little texture in the front. Right? And then we've got these trees, and so let's paint them like trees. Not detailed, but I'm not going to be dragging my brush straight across. I'm kind of just rolling it up into there, just like that. If we get our underpainting right, like I always say, home run, because really your underpainting does the work. It really does. I should say, what is it? Value does the work, color gets all the glory. Is that the saying goes? And it kind of is true. But, and I'm just going to come up this trunk because I hadn't done the tree trunk. This is a pretty important piece here coming down. Really, really looking at that curvature. We've got some branches coming up here and up here. It's a pretty oak tree. And I'll drag this off. I'm just taking my time here. I might have to bring that up, and that's okay. We'll come back into our refining part here, but I think overall, let's see. It almost looks like, yeah, this line needs to kind of come down a little bit. That's okay. Okay. Takes a little bit for it to dry, so when you're done, you guys can send in your pictures. This is one of my favorite parts. Oh. Okay, let me grab this. So this scene, we've got a lot of like changing seasons. It looks like it's just coming out of summer into fall. And sometimes that's hard to decide what we want to do for colors, believe it or not. Because fall, we really want to go into those vibrant oranges and those reds. But what do we do with these distant? Because in the summertime, we have those distant hills and trees, and they're kind of more on a blue-green. If you've looked at in the summertime, they kind of recede. You know, remember aerial perspective, things are cooler and they're muddier. They're, you know, we're pushing those back. And so summertime, it always seems like it's a little bit more blue-green. But as we're moving into the changing seasons, I encourage you to really pay attention to those distant trees and hills because they're changing in color too, right? And so our distance here is telling me that we're kind of crossing into that. We see a little bit of that blue-green in the picture. And so how do we deal with this distant piece? It's just something to be aware of, that when we come into the fall, a lot of times we'll be looking for more of a muted green yellow versus a muted green blue. So those are things just to keep in mind, the changing of the seasons and how we deal with those distant colors. And I mean, how do we deal with even warm colors when it's warm in the distance, right? This is where we go to those warmer colors that are muted. So like a green. A green is warm, but if it's going off into the distance and it's warmer, we would use a muted warm green. And I'll see if I can find one to kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's see here. In this picture that we're doing, I'm not necessarily going to do completely a muted warm green. You guys, I had to unload my entire pastel box from this weekend and it's a mess. So I apologize. So just to give you, this is a blue green and this is a warm green. Okay. So when we're looking at colors, what are we trying to tell the reader for the distance? So that's something that we want to think about. I wanted to find, so here is a lighter muted, and see if I can find, nope, too light. Too light. See if I can't find. So this is always good for a testing side here to test your colors, because when we lay them on this orange, it's going to look a little bit different because color is relative, and then when you set them next to each other, they may read differently. But I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit about the warmer green and the cooler green. So, all right, next step. We want to come in and make sure that we've got everything.
I think your camera's not.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Is it back on? Oh, good. Okay, thank you. So we're going to reinforce the darks. This is what we do first step, right? We're going to come back in and we're going to look at our dark values, our trees, reestablish our lines. Some of them may have kind of disappeared or gotten too bigger. So we're just kind of paying attention now, not detail, but refining. We're just coming in to make sure that we've got our angles and our perspective is sitting right. So for our tree, I'm going to do like a dark blue and dark green pastel. And it's a new pastel. So those are blue and like dark brown. And here's my dark green. And grab this. Boy, it looks black there. We don't want that. There we go. Okay. Either one, dark pastel, and I'm just using the side. I'm using the sides because it's easier to, if we're drawing, we'll want to draw everything. So use the side of our pastel. It forces you to just do shapes. And so squinting, very light, and I'm just looking at where this tree trunk is. And I like that curvature. I'm looking at the negative space here, this curve right here. I want that. It's important. And I'm looking at this curve right there. Now look at the distance, right? You may have gotten big like me, or you've realized that your tree is grown at the trunk, and that's totally normal. It's going to come right in like this, still using the side.
So Marie, sorry, is this a new pastel that you've got
Yep.
here?
Yep, it's just a dark new pastel. I think this is a blue or green. It's hard to see in my light. It doesn't really matter what color you use, but have it a darker color. We're just reestablishing.
Green? Yeah, this is a soft pastel. Oh, this is a, yeah, so these are the new pastels here. Right. So you can draw it.
And yeah, I'm just wanting to, it doesn't have to be exact. This is the part that we get to just, we get to do ourselves. We get to have the liberty of changing the picture and how we want. This is usually just for suggestion, but for class purposes, I try to get something that we're going to follow fairly close to what we see to help teach. But as you branch out on your own, it's important to use that as just a guide and to take what you know and do your interpretation of it. The thing about new pastels, what's nice is I can create these by twisting and turning. If you take your new pastel and you twist and turn as you come up, it creates these really fun, not linear, but these edges, these organic edges. And that's what I like about creating a tree, is you can turn and then drag it up like a branch. And that's really what I'm doing, is I'm just turning, putting pressure, and then pulling up very light. So try that. I'm not going to get too far up into here though with the blue. We're gonna start layering our colors. This is a really bright green picture. It printed out off my printer actually with some more yellow tones to it, which I feel is a little more representative of what it was probably looking like at the time. I didn't take the picture. So, you know, you have to keep that in mind, as well as when you've been probably out to a meadow, you've seen these trees, I'm sure, before. So you need to refer a little bit back to your own experiences when you're looking at this. Really, really intense green. Bright green is fun. I like to push color in that saturation. But if you want it to read true to wildlife, if you want it to look like you were walking out in that pasture, we do need to add some more yellows to it and warm it up a little bit and not be too blue-green, if that makes sense, because in the picture it was pretty bright, which I noticed. So I'm going to lean towards some of the yellows, and so I just want you to be aware of that. You're not wrong. If you want to use, and I'm going to use some bright greens, but it's not going to be this entire bright green. And I'm talking about here. So we want to make it a little interesting. Okay, so first thing, we've kind of reestablished our tree. Let's get in some of the sky. It's a nice blue day. And as we know, it's darker blue and we move down. Don't worry about these clouds. Those will come back at the end. We're going to have a gradation of dark blue to medium blue. And then as we know, it gets warmer down to the horizon. So we're going to move into some of that turquoise, a light turquoise, okay? Not white. I know that that appears that way, but in real life, it actually turns more of a turquoise. So I'm going to start out with a blue. Let's see, and it's a dark blue. And then I've got a nice light blue. I'm just going to put these down here for you guys, and then I'll take a picture so you see what I'm talking about. My pastels are a little jumbled today. I had good intentions, and then I fell last night and hurt my leg. So I apologize, it's not as organized. I'm just testing out these blues. This is why we have this side here. I've got a light turquoise. I think I might use that. Okay. Okay. So this is what we're going to use. I'll send you a picture of these 4 colors. I'm going to start with the darker blue and move down to the lighter blue, and then the lightest turquoise. These are soft pastels to a hard pastel, and it's fine if you have only hard pastels or soft. Just we're going to lightly fill the two. So I'm going to start with this dark blue. I'm just going to lightly come just like this. It's okay if it comes right into my tree. And I'm going to use my medium blue. And I'm just still lightly putting on. I'm going to come back with my dark blue. This is how we're going to blend these. I don't generally use my finger too much. You can, or you can use a blending tool. And this is bright. This is a very bright, bright blue. That's okay. We'll come back over with this, and it's just back and forth. Kind of push back that dark blue, and we'll come back with it. We're just knitting these together. Okay, and then I'm going to move down to my lighter. I'm going to come right along the edge of this tree, and now I'm just tapping, coming up to the edge and tapping and dragging. We're not going to get into the sky holes quite yet. These are considered sky holes, these little peaks of the sky through the tree. So I'm kind of just now paying attention to the edge. I don't want the tree to be exact, so meaning like it's this same edge all the way around. I want it to be interesting and different. And now I'm just using my light pastel to lightly come over here. And I'm going to come out over the sky just a little bit. with my tree color, and that's okay. Why do we not do the tree color all the way, or the sky first and then put the tree color? Well, that wouldn't look right. One, that's not, you're layering way too much, and you're not allowing this color that we've created for that tree to really push forward. So we definitely don't want to do that. So and I'm just, again, very lightly coming back down in here. It's okay if I go over that line. We want it softened because it's in the distance, right? Hard lines bring us forward. And again, tapping around the edge here, still using the light color. I'll come back with my turquoise, and that's fine. And moving up into here. I'm going to use that to blend. I know this tree is going to get bigger. It may look a little bit smaller comparatively, and that's okay. That is okay. I like how you can kind of see the sky, the clouds just kind of coming up a little bit. So I'm just dragging my pastel up a little bit like that. I'll take a picture of what I've done. And then you guys send in what you have. We're going to get in this distant piece just a little bit to get it in, and a little bit of color here in the front to kind of get going to where it's easier for us to make more decisions once we've got some color down, and we need to anchor that tree. It's kind of just floating right now. So go ahead and let me see where you guys are at. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to look at my colors for the distance and see what we have. Great, Jackie. The sky looks really good. Good. So now you're going to just pay attention to the edges, right? And just kind of tap your blue a little bit into that orange on your tree if you want. We're just breaking up the edges just a little bit, but very, very good. And even down here on the horizon, you can bring your light blue a little bit down in there. Just come over a little bit. That's awesome, Natalia. I love it. Moody. I like it. It's almost like a night scene. That's cool. I love it. Very good. It's like an upside down pumpkin, I think we just drew. Isn't that what you guys are doing, is the pumpkins? tell Leah that we're doing it too.
You're doing it upside down though.
We're doing yeah. It kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Oh, that's funny. I promise that we won't be spending 2 or 3 sessions on it though. Okay, so let's get into our distant, just our distance. And with this, again, no detail. We're just actually going to probably put in a little bit of color. And we're just going to take our pastel in a horizontal manner and just apply a couple lines here and there to indicate the distance. And then we'll come in with a little bit of, again, our pastel to indicate some trees and leave it be. Don't get wrapped up into the details. So I'm going to test on the side here and kind of look at what I have for the pastel. And so they're muted and they're cooler. And just kind of seeing what I want. What do I want? I think that's kind of nice. So I'm going to go with this. This is the color I used right here. Yeah, this green. A little bit of blue, and then I'll this what it, yeah, use that green, and then this is for these little pops, little distance, and it might be a little dark, and that's okay. We can come back and tone it back with this purple. So I'm going to show you the 4 that I just picked. So it's going to be these 4. They all look relatively in the same value, but they're not. So, okay. So I'm going to come right in with this green. Short strokes. If we went straight across, it's too distracting and it just becomes this really hard edge. And so we just want to apply it just a little bit of color here. And I am using my finger, and that's okay. We're softening the edge. I'm going to move to this muted green. I'm going to just drag like that. Okay. Bring this purple, lightly drag. And then I've got this muted purple that I'm going to drag over it and push it back even farther. Then we have our sky. We want to soften that edge. One of those parts about doing landscapes is the back and forth with the painting. And we're just adding, notice that line was a little too hard. And I didn't want it to be this straight line. So just rolling it. Okay. just need a shade lighter. This is like a shade lighter than that purple, muted purple. Just rolling it on its edge, just pushing that distance a little. It was a little too dark. There we go. And I'll show you what. So you can see this muted purple, and then I did a lighter version of that muted purple over just a little bit and melded it with the horizon, the sky. It gives it a very nice soft edge. I know, you're wondering, when are we going to start on the tree? We'll get there. We will get there. Okay. And stop me if you have any questions. We're going to get into these trees here. And you've got a nice warm.
I think I'm being really dim today, Marie. I'm a bit behind. So the color that you, and I'm finding it hard to see because I'm also blind.
Oh gosh. Yes.
Well, so the color you've done at the back,
yes.
where the horizon is, that's the purple, is it?
Yeah. So let me take a picture. Get out of the. So the idea is, if you can see, I'm trying to push this distant area, and I'll come in with the highlights at the very end with the bright greens and just a little sprinkles of the cake, so to speak, right? The decorations. And so I'm just setting up that scene to make this muted and, you know, blue, right? It's receding. Then I'm going to bring in another set. We're moving into another plane that's coming closer. So it's going to start getting a little bit warmer, but it's still in the distance. It's still a little bit muted. And I'm starting with the darker mid-tone value of the green, and I'm going to top those again with some light colors. So it's just like what we do with anything is we're looking at the base and then how we can layer to the lights on top, and then how we can keep that value true as we move closer.
You put a lot of this purple at the back. Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's that muted blue green in the back. And now I'm just adding color up here in the foreground, to where then we're going to lay some of these tree colors on here in a few minutes. But we just need to get something down so we can have an idea of where things are looking. And this is these little tree line here, right? And then I've got this bright green. And that bright green, if you need to put it in, that's okay. If that helps you see, you can put in that bright green. It's not going to hurt anything. And sometimes maybe that's what you need to give you a better idea of where everything's sitting. This is like a bright lime green, and whoo, is it bright? And that's okay. I'm not opposed to it. So I did that just to kind of show you how we're building from the back forward. And I know that it can be kind of painful a little bit because it's not, this is what we call that ugly stage. It's not really reading quite yet what it should be, and that's, it takes time to get there. So I understand that. And this is just, again, a muted green. And I'm just connecting these two areas. I'm leaving some of this underpainting showing. So I'm going to let this sit for right now because we're not ready to put those colors on the trees. So I'm going to come back in here and let's get some color down on the foreground, and then we'll move into our tree. But yeah, ask questions, Julia, if something's not making sense at all. I'll stop.
No worries. We're just wrestling with all our colors, and between two of us, we're like, we've got one pastel. Who gets it?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yes, you're like, what are you doing? Give that back. Oh, well, good on you for sharing. Good job. I'm just looking at pastel colors here, what I want to look for down in the foreground. I'm looking for the shade color of our green, so it's going to be a cooler green. So it's going to have more blue, right? And then working into the warmer green. So we're going to throw down some brown for our dirt color. I think that would be kind of nice. So this is a brown. It's like a rusty brown. I'm just gonna add it a little bit here. Down into the, now isn't that interesting how it changes colors when we put it over that red? Okay, I'm gonna come with the cool green into the shadows. Light touch. It does look dark, and that's okay. We will, oops, come back with lighter greens. Using that, just the side of my pastel. I might use this here to connect. And it's kind of a nice, here we go. Just like that.
That was, so you've got two browns there. You've got a kind of a paler brown and then a darker brown, is that right?
It's a dark green, yeah, and so isn't this interesting? Look at it with it here, and then look at it here. So this is what happens when you have an underpainting, and when I always talk about colors relative, that's why we test them here and then we put it down to see if it reads okay. We may have to find a different, you know, a lighter value or a darker value. And right now it's reading pretty dark, but that's okay. We're gonna come back with our greens. And so I was testing over here to see, this is kind of still more blue-green, but brighter. So I'm gonna test it.
Dark, I mean.
I'm gonna test it over that to see if that's gonna work. I don't know, that's kind of dark, but see.
I think look pretty good.
Yeah.
That one. You wanna take that one?
Yeah.
Might have to mix. So it's still on the blue-green side, and I want it warmer. So sometimes mixing these is what you have to do, and that's okay. Okay. And so that reads good. Okay. All right, so this is what I used. Just checking out these greens here. So I got that color. That color. There we go. So I've got 2 warmer greens and 2 cooler greens. I'll take a picture of them for you. And this is going to be for down in the grass. So the cooler greens are on the left, the warmer greens are on the right. So the cooler is going to go down into where the shadowed areas are. I'm just dragging right over the darks. And we're just getting color down, so I'm going to come up because it's closer. Come back with that cooler green. Add a little bit of that vibrant texture up and down here. I'm letting that underpainting show through. Okay. Now I've got that warmer green. It's got more yellow in it. And I'll come back over that with even lighter color, but this is just laying in that really nice, warm, sunlit. It's going to be a great base for that. And I'll come up, foreground, have fun with it, still using the side. I'm letting that underpainting show. I like it. It adds a different vibe to it. I absolutely love using the underpainting like that. Okay. Using the edge to just drag a little bit. Okay. You get to be free with this. That's the fun part. And we will come back and refine and add these darker lines. I'm just glazing over. Okay. See if I can zoom in and so you can see the bottom part. So see that mix of the warm and cool greens? Then we'll come over the top with some really yummy bright yellows, and it will just give you that dimension and that light. That's one of the things I love about this picture is that evening light, that sun is just hitting here and then cascading down here on the grass. And so when we hit those lights on the tree is when we're going to come back down here into the grass, but we're set up. So now we get to move into the tree, but I will wait. I know you guys said that you're needing some more time, and that's okay. Just let me know. Let me know if you, when you're ready. Kind of need to fix that. Okay. Kind of lost my distance there in the sky. So I'm just fixing it. I rolled in some of that dark pastel you can see, and it's being a pain. Okay. So our tree. Everyone ready to move into the tree? Okay. We're going to start out with very light touch with our dark green. We're in the shade, so we're going to be a little bit cooler, but it's still warm. So we're going to mix a little bit of our cool green, a little bit of our warm green, but it's still going to be darker in value because we're in the shade, and we're going to use the side of our pastel, okay, because we're not wanting to do, this is a dark green, we're not wanting to add in those leaves yet. I'm letting this underpainting show through. And I'm lightly just squinting my eyes, and I can see this area, right? It's just kind of darker, dragging lightly.
Is this a brown or is this a?
This is a dark green, and it's on a cooler side. And see how I'm coming out into my sky a little bit? And what it does is it almost just creates those leaves on its own without drying them. And you're just lightly what we call glazing. And I'm just dragging over. Coming right up into here. We'll come back in with some hard pastel to add back in our limbs, but we're not quite there yet. I'm just dragging and rolling it. You can roll your pastel right out in there, just like that. See? It's kind of fun. And just very light, even just rolling it. You don't even have to press. It's kind of cool. It's called mark making, and it's very easy. It's kind of, you start realizing where you go for your own marks, how you like to hold the pastel. Now we still have some dark over here, and that's okay. So I'm just going to use a little bit out here, just a little. It's primarily over on this side, just like that. And I'll show you. want to show you how I came right out into the sky. You know how I was telling you that it looked kind of smaller, and then I was going to bring my tree out into the to the sky area. That's what I was talking about. Okay, we're going to go a shade lighter, a little warmer. So still use the edge of your pastel. And I'm going to send you a picture. I'm coming kind of out in here. We're just a little bit over some of those areas. Going heavier in some where you know the foliage is a little thicker. So I might push a little harder there where there's more clumps. So now I'm pressing a little bit more, being more intentional with my pastel, but still not drawing any leaves. And so now I'm just, like I said, pressing a little harder, filling in some more of those areas so it's more solid, but letting some of those dark areas still show through, right? I'll come down around this tree a little bit, the trunk. And looks like it kind of comes up into here. We're looking at those dark areas. Like I said, pressing a little harder. Take your time. Filling in, just got a little bit more foliage over here. Notice I'm leaving this area. This is pretty light over here on the right hand side. So not putting too much emphasis with this dark green. I have a little bit coming out here, but not too much. Just filling in some of these areas. I can get carried away, so I'm going to let it sit like that. It's easy to do. And then all of a sudden your tree is a big blob. You've filled it all in. It's very easy to do. So I want to show you now. So see how I've kind of created these clumps, masses within the tree that are filled in a little bit more with this second layer. So the other one was just kind of laying down the darker areas and then letting that dark area come through these clumps. So we're going to go another shade lighter.
Your phone has gone funny again, Marie.
Oh. So weird that it's doing that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Did it come back on? Okay. Weird. We have big storms right now. So I'm wondering if it's either the phone or the internet issue. So, but thank you for telling me. All right, now we're going to come in with a brighter green, a step up in value, cooler, because we're going to come into these shadow areas. Almost the same pastel that I used down here in the grass. And we're just, again, going to drag it over some of these areas that we know probably the sun is peeking through, maybe illuminating it a little bit, adding a little bit of nice texture, excuse me. And I'm still tapping. And I'll come down a little bit just so you can see the change. And if it helps, squint. You know, it helps me sometimes. I can see that shift. And staying right over here. I'm letting that underpainting show through. I love it. And so bring a little bit over here. Oops, sorry guys. Just went on a roller coaster ride. Okay. I'm going to hold off at this point on the tree. I think it's time to address the trunk and maybe get some more of these limbs to kind of come out into our sky. And then we're going to work a little bit of what we call sky holes into the tree. And then we'll apply the last bit of our, what I call the sprinkles, the dessert, the final part, these pops of colors. And so let's get out a dark brown pastel, new pastel, a hard pastel if you have one. It can be a dark blue if you choose. You can even do a dark purple, whatever you have. And I like the new pastel because they're square and I can use it, and I'll show you. I have a piece of paper I could show you on here. What I like about it, it's perfect for limbs. So you can take it with the edge and you come up and you twist and then you let it come out like this. Light touch and like this. That's what I'm going to do, is bring out these little limbs and see how delicate they are. And they're just light touch. And so you can turn it to where it's on the edge and just like you would be following your fingers or your hands right along that tree branch. And you can roll it like this and roll the pastel and see how it makes these uneven but limb-like. That's what we want. That's what I'm going to attempt to do in my tree. And I want it broken. I don't want it solid, because if you look at the tree, you see this limb here, but you don't see it all the way down, right? Because you've got the foliage covering it. So that's how I want to paint some of these, just to indicate, you know, that I've got this. This is a pretty important area of the tree. I don't want to lose this part here. So I want to pay attention to that line here on the tree. So I'm gonna,
that's a purple, Marie, is that right?
It's like a dark, it looks like it's a dark blue, like a navy. I even have a black one that was floating around here, which is fine. Or even like a really dark brown. And so I really want to pay attention to this shape. And I like the new pastel where I can really just drag, lift, and then tap. And I like this branch that's coming out to the edge here. And I like them coming out into the sky. And we're going to be putting more pastel over this. So it's okay if they connect all the way. Try not to. This is a nice little clustering here. So I'm gonna just roll my pastel. You're not wrong. It's not gonna look bad. Just have fun rolling your pastel around. Make it a little darker in some areas. And let it roll. And this is something I do even in other mediums. I do this. This is how I do my trees. It's all in steps and layers, and I'm gonna bring this branch down. We've got a really nice branch here. And we've got some coming out here. And what happens when we come back on over this is we've already got a little bit of our sky holes put in on these areas. And we just have to add a few here and there. So it makes it nice.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, darling. Sorry. I didn't even look at the thing.
Okay. We could spend hours on these little limbs. They're fun. New pastels are a must-have in your pastel set. They really are wonderful assets, and I do rely on them quite a lot. I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. This trunk of mine needs to be a little more massive. So that's okay. So I'll take a picture of this. And I'd like to see your guys's your limbs. Send them in. Now our upside down pumpkin is not looking like a pumpkin anymore. It's becoming a tree. Fall's a lovely time. I love it. It's beautiful out here at fall time. Matter of fact, I have this bright red tree I'll show you that I right in my yard. I took a picture of it because it was just like on fire. And of course, my son's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I like the tree." Oh, I love it, Jackie. Yeah. Don't you love it?
I love anything that's full colors or almost.
Isn't it
full.
great? Yeah, I just love pastel because you can just make it so beautiful and vibrant. It's just a very different medium from others, I feel. I don't know. I mean, you can do that with oil and you can do it with acrylic, but pastel just has this lovely way of laying on the paper with each other and the colors. It's beautiful. Well done. Good job.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing, Julia? How's your trees? Are you playing nice in the sandbox? Yeah.
it's a bit of a crowded desk here, so we're kind of like jumbling into each other. But we're having fun today. My tree is a little, it's looking a bit squashed up on this picture because of the angle I've taken it. There you go.
Oh, yeah, no, that's okay. And so this is your first time through. This is why I say it's always good to paint these over and over and over. I learned so much, and I will tell you after doing this show, there's one particular scene that I've painted probably 4 or 5 times most recently. It was one of my popular scenes, and now your muscle memory. And I can tweak it just that more and do more and see more. It's amazing. I highly suggest painting something over and over and over. That's great. So see how yummy that is with the orange underneath the green? And I mean, it would be so boring if we just laid green on it. But it's the lights popping through, and I just think it's beautiful. So well done. Yeah. So how are you doing, Natalia?
One second sending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Still a bit moody, my scene.
Yeah, I love it. I love your painting though, Natalia, because you always exude that moodiness in your paintings. That's your style. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
It really is. So, all right. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, so we've got our branches in. We have not put our lights on yet. Let's focus on this section just a little bit and get some of these colors in here. So if your distance here is darker than here, we need to lighten this up. So look at your paintings. Oh, that's beautiful, Natalia. I love it. It's beautiful. So let's glaze some light muted, if you've got some purples or even a very light muted greens. So you want this area much lighter and cooler than this area. So actually, Jackie, you got yours lighter. Julia, you guys, I would lighten even more if you can. Even with that light blue-green that you have in the grass, I'd go maybe a shade or I do 2 shades lighter of that green in the distance, or a light muted purple, and glaze it over your most distant. And I'm just talking about this area right here, just this section. All you got to do is just a little bit. So that way it's not competing with this front. Yep. Because what it's saying, it wants to come forward. We want it to recede. So do that before we add these colors on these trees. I'm gonna take some, I've got like a orangey color. It's like a, well, let's see here. I've got a range. Those are nice. I'm just looking at for these trees. We still want them muted. And then I'm just testing up here. Oof, that's a little pink. That might be nice. That's what's fun, is testing to see what works. That's a little dark. Nope, I want more muted. That's better. Okay. So this might be better over in here. So it's like a muted mauvey color. Just tapping lightly into the back here. We're building forward. And then we've got, and these are bright. We don't want them necessarily to compete too much, but we know the sun's hitting it like our tree in here. So we're going to still keep them bright. We're going to still keep them warm, but we're going to push them back a little. So that means a muted color. So let's see here. That's not bad. Might need to be a little darker here. Yeah. I'm going to use a combination here. Hold on. Let me just kind of testing these out here. Might be a little too bright, but I like it against that green. So this is the fun part, right? I'm going to show you these colors. I'm just trying to figure out here if they're going to work. Okay. I got a range. They're muted oranges, peaches to the muted yellows. And this is kind of what it's looking like. And you saw me applying, it's not in, I'm not drawing out each tree. I'm just applying a little bit of color here to suggest that there's trees. I'm not really interested in painting every tree, but they're there. And so I'm putting them. And I kind of feel like, maybe this might be too dark. We'll try it out. Just tapping. Make sure we don't want our trees to be soldiers, right? We don't want them to be placed exactly the same distance, just marking areas of where they're at. And I like this blue I used in the distance, if I can find it again. Maybe this is it. Nope, that's too dark. Maybe this is it. I like how it's working with those oranges. So I'm going to bring it back in just a little more. Oops. Just like that. You can add a little bit of that gold in there because it's like a really pretty gold. Okay. I know that I can get deep into the weeds, so to speak, if I spend too much time in one area. So I know that if I start adding or wanting to do too much detail, it's like, nope, we're done, move on. And I feel like I was doing that, so. This is just the muted green. Okay. Let's get into the tree and finish that and get some sky holes in. So I'm going to take this sky color, and it's going to be, it's not going to be this light color. If we took this light blue and laid it in here, it would pop out like Christmas ornaments almost. And we don't want to decorate our tree with ornaments. We want it to look believable. And with aerial perspective, all that foliage actually filters the light. And so what appears in our picture is actually, it's actually darker. So we want to go a value darker than what we see within this tree. So I'm going to take that mid-tone blue, and that's what I'm going to be looking at using some of these lighter areas within the tree. And I can add a little bit lighter than this. That's okay, but I'm not going to do the white. And I'm just tapping with my pastel. I'm not drawing. I'm just adding little areas here and there, and then tap with my finger because I want it to be softened. I don't want it to be a hard edge. And I'll come around these areas where the branches are really thin with my blue, and I'm coming along the edge. So I want to preserve that with my blue. I'll come in here, and I may use my darker blue that I had up in the sky, which is okay. And I'm tapping, and then tap with your finger. I've got some sky holes down in here, and I'm tapping, and with my pastel, almost like if I was putting leaves, bright leaves on top. Bring some dark blue down in here. Maybe run along the edge of that branch. This is going to be lighter. Take your time. And this takes time learning how to do sky holes. So tapping again. I'll come back down along the edge here. My hand's dirty. Okay. I've got a mark here. No one said trees are super easy, or did I? They're not. I'm just blending this area here. Okay. Squint at your tree. Look at those areas that have the sky holes that you want to shine through. Might need to brighten this blue up a little bit, and that's okay. So I'll go a shade lighter. Just pressing. Tap. And press. And tap. Come up in here. Got a little bit come along the edge. I don't want it on one side of the limb, light, and then the other side, super dark. So. And I'll tap. And soften this. Come along that branch. Okay. All right. We could add sky holes all day. But now we're going to come in and add those nice, warm, bright, yellowy green leaves. Okay. So I have two colors. Got a warm green and then a shade yellower and lighter. So, and then, nope, I didn't use those. So it's going to be these two. So I'm going to come over the edge and I'm just going to push like I was earlier and just add. Come right out into the sky, that's okay. Squint if you have to. You can use fixative at this point too, if you want to. Fixative kind of, it will fix what you have and then you can layer and it will create a little bit more texture and it's fun. I'm just pushing this up. I've got a warmer green. And this is where I'm doing a little bit of both. I'm going to add a little bit of leaves. So I'm going to push here on the edge and indicate these. There's some leaves here. And then I'm going to fill in some of the area with this bright yellow. So I'm going to roll and press harder. I'm going to add some of these leaves just like this and push a little harder. So pushing, bring it up here. Not too much. Take a picture here. So see how I'm doing, now I'm actually adding in a little bit of leaves, but then I'm filling in a little bit more over the top. So it's not just drawing every leaf, but now when you look at it, you're saying, okay, these are leaves out here, right? And put some over here. We've got some light shining through, right? We've got some light over in here. I probably want to take a golden orange and bring it over onto this side because it is a little bit more in shadow, right? That bright yellow. And it will transition into that really beautiful.
You've gone
That's
funny
an
again.
orange. What was that?
Your phone's gone again. I don't know what it's doing today.
Oh, I wonder if, yeah, I'll have to look at it. Thank you. So this is like a warm, rusty orange, and I'm just adding a little bit here and there. Not too much. And do the same thing with that darker, cooler green on this side. Come over here and add some of those leaves and then come back with it. Like that. Just up the edge, not all over. I lost some of my my tree branch there, so I'm going to take this green that I have and I'm going to add it down here into my grass. In the highlighted areas. Varying the pressure of my pastel. I'd probably even be ready to spray this with a fixative. It kind of feels like it's loading up a little bit, so. which is okay. And I've got this right. I'm warming it up just a little here. What's that? Golden color. This is a cooler green in the back because we're pushing it to the far distance, and I know we're kind of running out of time, so this is where you can come in and refine a little bit. And I tend to use my new pastel in this instance, you know, to soften edges. Now we're going to be paying attention to our edges. We didn't necessarily get to our tree, but I've got this nice warm brown that I'm going to highlight the edge of my tree where I believe the sun's hitting it. And I'll just kind of do that. I think that's important. Important to have that in our tree, and I'll show you. So we're coming down to the end here. Lots more to do on this, you guys. But let me see where you're at and what I can do to help. There's more color that I would probably add in the distance on these trees, some pop color. I'd probably spray this and come back in and add just a little bit more, work the edges of the tree with the sky and then my leaves. So that'd probably be the next step that I would do. I mean, it's fine how it is now, but yeah, I think that's what I would do. I might even bring up my sky a little higher up into here. So it's not necessarily, I think it needs to be brought up a little bit higher. Maybe like that. So it's not completely flying off the edge of the, that's, I think, kind of helps with the eye a little bit, right? I don't know what I did with my, here we go. So this is what I would probably do, is come back in and start refining the edges of my tree. And I'd even probably bring in a lighter color to come along the edges, because those are fairly close in value. But definitely, like, needs to come up here. And do my brights. It's fun. All right, guys. Let me see. Nice, Julia. Oh, wait, that's Jackie. Good job, Jackie. I love it. I love what you did on the tree. I love how you left all of that underpainting coming through. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep adding if you want to add some more color and break up some of those lines. If that would be the only critique I have on your tree, break up like a continuous line going from the trunk all the way up.
Yep.
So like you can just kind of drag some of that color this way and maybe this way, just a little bit over the top.
Yep.
But overall, it looks beautiful. Good job. How did you guys do? How did you do, Natalia?
Still so much to do.
It is. And that's the thing, right? That's when I looked at it, I knew there was a couple other pictures I had in mind. And I the more I started getting into the painting on how I was going to teach it, there was too many elements going on. And so I think you guys could do it, but it gets harder when we're adding a river, rocks, trees, clouds. It just, we really want to just focus on the foliage. So good job, you guys. Excellent. Keep working at it.
My tree is a little wonky, but I can straighten that out.
Yeah, of course. That's the beauty of the tree. Make it how you want it.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fun.
And you can even take some grass. So that's the other thing is you can take your new pastel and draw in some grasses if you want. And you can just do it like this. Right? And you can add texture very easily and bring it just like that. And it kind of adds another element. So have fun with it. All right, guys. We will see you next week.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
week. Bye. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks,
Have a good
Marie.
day.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.